You can kindly move a little forward. You can sit up to this point. We'll have a katha by His Holiness Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj. So please everyone, come closer and please be seated.
How'd it go? Happy Diwali too. Okay. It's good. There you go.
Hare Krishna. So we have a whole group of students from NC State University. So we'd like to specially welcome all the students here who have come from North Carolina State University. Let's loudly welcome them. Haribo! Thank you everyone for coming. Hare Krishna. Okay, so welcome everyone. And nice to see all of you. I'm seeing many of you after some time. Hare Krishna Prabhu, nice to see you. Okay. So welcome. So as I said, we'll have a class by His Holiness Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj. After there'll be nice Abhishek of Giriraj Govardhan, and then we'll go downstairs for the rest of the program. Okay. So without further ado, Hare Krishna.
Okay, mine is on. Okay, so we're going to speak about Diwali and Govardhan Puja today. So two important days. And I don't know how much I'm going to be able to speak today with such a short time, but we'll try our best to go very quickly and discuss a few things. First, we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Vihare Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Vihare Gopi Jana Malabha Irivaruda Gude Gopi Jana Malabha Irivaruda Girivardhara Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Vanachare Yamuna Tera Vanachare Jai Hurad Umadhva Kunda Vihate Jai Radhu Madhuva Kunda Vihate Upijana Ballabha Iri Paradare Gopi Jana Ballabha Iri Paradare Yasodandana Rajajana Ranjana Madhuranana Brajajana Ranjona Yamuna Tera Vanachare Yamuna Tera Vanachare Jai Huradam Madhuva Kunda Bihati Jai Huradam Madhuva Kunda Bihati Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya Also Teta Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Charanana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantagoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai Vrem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopatna Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuranam Ki Jai Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai Yuvanamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasadevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Go All glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the assembled devotees, all glorious the Srila Prabhupada Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachani Nevashesha Shunyavadi Paschachite Shatani So Omagana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we'd like to welcome everybody here, especially some of the students from NC State, who I've been spending a lot of time at NC State lately and talking to the students who are all very nice, and some of them are here. So we're going to try to explain why we're celebrating today in 10 seconds or less. No. Try to do it all within the allotted period of time, which is not very long, because we got a lot of things happening today. So first I wanted to talk about Diwali, because Diwali is celebrated all over India. It's considered to be like New Year's. So it's interesting, every culture has a different New Year's. In America, of course, we follow the Roman calendar. Our New Year's is on January 1st. But traditionally, in the Judeo-Christian calendar, they would follow the moon calendar, which we also follow in Krishna consciousness, and they would also have a different day of New Year every year. And so our Diwali falls on a different day, according to the sun calendar every year, because we follow the moon calendar. Why is the moon calendar so important? Does anyone know? Because it affects the mind. And the moon actually, of course, the sun is very important too. We understand now the sun is sending all these flares towards the Earth planet, and you can see all the aurora borealis, if you like, if you happen to live further north. But the moon is actually very important because it shapes our consciousness in many ways, and also gives taste to what? Does anyone know? Vegetables. The reason it gives taste to vegetables, and you can experience that if you ever take a vegetable that was grown in a hothouse or greenhouse. It doesn't taste so good. It just tastes like cardboard. So the moon is that, and it causes the tides, and everybody knows that on the full moon there's a lot of lunatics. Anyway, so the moon is actually very important. So we follow the moon calendar, so Diwali falls on a different Western calendar day each and every year. So what does Diwali signify? Very, very important. I'm going to explain it from a Vaishnava perspective. Diwali signifies three different things according to what part of India you happen to be in. It's interesting. Northern India, it's the victory, not the victory, but the homecoming of Lord Ram. after Ram has defeated this wonderful personality, Ravan, who sort of lost his heads, and I'm using the plural deliberately. So he defeats him, and he gets on his airplane, and he heads back to his kingdom of Ayodhya. And not only is his airplane for him and for his wife, but it's called the Pushback of Imani. You can put any number of people on it, so Sugriva and Hanuman, or the Kimpurushas, like the half-person, half-monkeys, they were helping Lord Ram in his victory over Ravan in Lanka, or Ceylon. And so they flew back, and of course Hanuman went first, and he gave Bharat the message that Ram is coming, because Bharat, being the loyal brother of Ram, said that unless Ram comes on time, I'm going to enter in the fire. So Ram wanted to avoid Bharat entering into the fire. So he sends Hanuman first, and then he lands his airplane. It's called a VTOL airplane. Does anyone know what the VTOL means? Vertical takeoff and landing. Which the scientists are just like discovering how, you know, some of the airplanes are like that. So he doesn't need a runway, like most airplanes. So he lands it, and he's received very nicely with all these lights, and that's really a very wonderful way to receive an honored guest, with lights. I mean, sometimes when I go to Fiji, when I go to someone's house, they actually have these lamps, and they receive me with lamps. It's actually a traditional way to receive an honored guest. So that's how some people in India celebrate. I'm not going to talk about the Durga Puja right now, but I'm talking about Vaishnava activities. So elsewhere in India, there's other celebrations. Another celebration is the chastisement of Bali Maharaj. Now, Bali Maharaj has actually taken over the whole universe from Indra, and Indra's mother doesn't like it very much. Indra's mother, Diti, she complains. She does some Payovrata ceremony, and she gets a nice little son named, who knows? Vamanadev. Vamanadev comes, and he asked for 3 steps of land. And Bali Maharaj said, well, 3 steps of land, I can give you everything. That's pretty stupid. Why are you only asking for 3 steps of land? And he says, well, if you're actually intelligent, you'll know, and if you're not satisfied with 3 steps of land, you'll never be satisfied with anything, even a whole universe, which is true. So he gets his 3 steps of land after Bali Maharaj's spiritual master Shukracharya objects and tries to interfere with the benediction, and Lord Vamana puts Shukracharya's eye out. And then Bali Maharaj gives him what he asked for, and so Vamanadev expands himself, takes over the whole universe, the whole Earth planet with his first step, second step. He takes over the whole universe, kicks a hole in the universe, and he says there's nowhere else to go. And because of that, they arrest Bali Maharaj. And then Bali Maharaj says, what? You can put your final step on what? My head. So he puts his final step on the head, and he pushes him down to Sutala. And so that's also celebrated on this particular day, the day that Bali Maharaj goes down to Sutala, one of the lower regions of the universe. And the final Vaishnava thing that's celebrated today is really interesting. It has to do with one of Krishna's sons. Please sit down. It has to do with one of Krishna's sons named Narakasura. Krishna, when he was in the form of Lord Boar, had a kid with the earth, Bhumi. And that kid's name was Naraka. Naraka went to the wrong schools, had the wrong association, and as a result, he started kidnapping a whole lot of girls. Not the best thing to do. So he started kidnapping like thousands of girls, actually 16,100. So that's quite a bit. I guess he had some help in doing that. So he kidnapped them all, and then Krishna, okay, let's go back a little bit. So when he was born, when Naraka was born, Krishna's wife, Bhumi, said, don't kill our son. And he said, I'm not going to kill our son unless you give me permission. So she was very happy at that particular juncture. Uh-oh. Let's just get everybody in here. So anyway, she was very happy, but then Krishna had another plan. He brought with him Satyabhama when he came to rescue all the princesses. And Satyabhama is the same as Bhumi. Bhumi is an expansion of Satyabhama. And then what happened is, to make a long story short, after Krishna fought off this other person, Mula, the Mura demon, Krishna was fighting with Boma, who became Bhaumasura. And Bhaumasura got his trident out and was attacking Krishna. And Satyabhama said, kill him. And Krishna said, thank you for giving me permission. And so then Krishna killed him. Because he was harassing, stealing girls, kidnapping girls. Not a very nice thing to do. So anyway, so that's part of the Diwali celebration. It's a celebration of victory. Really important day. So we want to wish everybody happy Diwali. Very, very, very important day. So, and actually that was 2 days. Whoops. I get excited sometimes. So, fortunately nobody was there for me to hit. So that was three things that happened. That's Diwali. That happened 2 days ago. Yesterday was Govardhan Puja. And now we're going to talk about Govardhan Puja. The story about Govardhan Puja and who Govardhan is. Okay. Here's the story in a nutshell, because we have very limited time. And, all right, what is the purpose of the story? The purpose of the story is that people should worship Krishna. And as far as the demigods are concerned, you should see them in relationship with Krishna and appreciate them in relationship with Krishna. Those of you from India will understand what I'm talking about. Those of you from the West, demigods, you'll be thinking, what the heck is that? So we are not polytheistic. Demigods are like the cabinet of Krishna. Like you have a president of the United States or a prime minister, and he has all his sub-ministers who work under him, right? In India, you have the prime minister. What are the sub-ministers called in India? Does anyone know? No one knows. You're all from India. What? Cabinet. Cabinet. I don't know where the word cabinet came from. It's just but anyway, he has a cabinet. So these are what the demigods are. They're in charge of different things, because when you got a big organization and you are the boss and you don't want to bother with everything and you want to remain in the spiritual world enjoying yourself, you have other people do the heavy work for you. Just like Prabhupada one time was driving past the Ford Motor Company in Detroit, and he had with him his student disciple, Ambarish, who was the great-grandson of Henry Ford. So one of the devotees asked Ambarish, is this where you work? And Prabhupada said, no, he's the proprietor. He doesn't have to work. Of course, in the material world, sometimes we find the proprietor is working hard, like, Elon Musk works really hard, even though he's the proprietor. But spiritually, Goloka eva devashati akilat bhavuta, Krishna, he's just enjoying. That's how you can tell the difference between Krishna and the demigods. And the demigods are all doing something. Lord Brahma, he's managing. That's why he got 4 heads. It's a lot of management. And, 4 processors. Quad processors, if you supercomputer, so like the more you got to have a bigger computer. So, he has a lot of 4 different computers there that deal with different subject matters in the universe. And Lord Shiva, he's meditating, and Ganesh, he's writing and doing other things like that. So you got all these different personalities that are actually doing something. So the way you can understand that Krishna is the supreme is that Krishna is just there with his girlfriend. He doesn't have to do anything. Goloke vinibhashati akilat mavuta. In fact, there was a story that Prabhupada told about how one time there was an Englishman. Prabhupada would always tell stories about Englishmen. because Prabhupada was raised, under the English rule in India. He said one time there was an Englishman, he went into the Hindu temple. And he was looking at all the different altars on the Hindu temple, just like you have one, and I think it's in Cary or Raleigh or whatever. And he's looking, this altar, there's Lord Shiva, Ganesh, even had Mahavir on the altar, and I don't know who else. But anyway, and so this man who didn't know a thing about the Vedic literatures, he was looking at all these different altars, and he said, this one's God. And the priest, the Panda, he said, how come you're saying that? I don't necessarily agree with you. He said, well, because everybody else is working. This guy is with his girlfriend playing his flute. So that's how you know, because Krishna is aptakama. Aptakama means whatever he wants, he gets. Krishna is also Swarat, he's independent, he doesn't need anyone else to fulfill his desires. So there's, he's all the time enjoying himself in Goloka and in the spiritual world. So that's the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anyway, so this particular pastime, Govardhan Puja pastime, proves this also. How does it prove it? Well, once upon a time, just to tell the story very quickly, some of the members of Krishna's village in Vrindavan were getting ready to perform a sacrifice to one of these cabinet ministers. This cabinet minister's name was Indra. And Indra's in charge of things like, rain and everything like that. And so what happened is that Krishna wanted to dissuade the residents of Vrindavan from doing that. He thought it's not a good idea. They're really getting into this demigod worship, which in the Bhagavad Gita, which I say is avidi purvakam. That's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. And also kamastasta ritigana prapajantenya devata. There's many verses in the Gita like that. So anyway, so Krishna was thinking like that. So let's dissuade them from doing this. Let me show them who's the boss here. That was Krishna's intention. So he had a very interesting way of doing that. He asked his father, Nanda Maharaja, and Krishna was only a little kid, remember this. He said, what are you preparing for this big sacrifice for? What's the purpose? And his father was basically saying, we got to worship Indra, he provides the rain and everything, we're dependent on him. It's like a harvest festival. In every culture, there's a harvest festival. When I was brought up in a certain culture, we had a harvest festival too. Remember Mother Krishna Priya? It was a lot of fun. We hung a lot of different vegetables around a tent and drank some grape juice. It wasn't fermented. So we drank and we danced and everything like that. The different dances, circle dances and things like that, just like we do here. So every culture, there's a harvest festival. Of course, in America, you call that Thanksgiving, which you cut off the head of a poor turkey for. So that's not a very good way to celebrate the harvest. So anyway, so they were getting ready for this harvest festival in which they would worship Indra, and Krishna wanted to dissuade them from doing that. He said, this Indra guy, he's like a cabinet minister. He just has to do what he's told. He doesn't have any independent decision-making power. If you act good, he's going to give you a good result. In one sense, that's called the karma mimamsa philosophy, where if you just act good, you'll get a good result. It doesn't matter if there's God or not God. So Krishna was presenting a little bit of a bogus philosophy there. But in any case, he was dissuading Nanda Maharaj from worshiping Indra. And Nanda Maharaj became persuaded when Krishna dissuaded. And they took all the same ingredients and they began to worship Govardhan with it. And not only that, they distributed food to everybody, the cows, the monkeys, everybody got prasadam, all the ingredients were actually, in addition to be worshiping Govardhan, they were distributed to all the animals. Which is kind of funny because Indra was supposed to be the one getting it. So Krishna's trying to make this Indra person really angry. Like if I take, let's say it's your dinner time and someone's cooking your dinner and I just take it and I distribute it to all the dogs and the poor people in the street, you're going to get angry if your wife does that. Any of you men, how would you feel? You're saying to your wife, it's dinner time, Priya. And she says, I just gave it all to the dogs in the street. And I offered it all, and I offered a big amount to a hill. You would say, this is time for a divorce. So this is basically how Krishna planned to insult Indra. Basically, first of all, by the philosophy, even if there is an Indra, he just has to behave himself. He's like, it's like the person who gives you a driver's license, he can't change the law. If you follow the law, you take the test, you pass the test, you got to get a driver's license. Except in India. In India, you just pay the money, but that's another subject matter. We're talking about America. So, am I right or wrong? Right. So, anyways, so he was insulting Indra, to make a long story short, so they're worshiping Govardhan, and Govardhan is non-different from Krishna. You may say, how is it possible that a mountain, mountain, can be the same as God? Well, Krishna arranges it. Krishna can do amazing things. How can God put a whole tree in a seed, the design of a tree in a seed? Isn't that pretty amazing? Or how can he put the design of a human being between the sperm and the ovum? I mean, that's incredible. These little microscopic things, and there you are. Oh my God. And each cell in your body is infinitely more complex than all the cities in the world combined. And he's put all that into two little cells that meet each other and shake hands. Become zygotes. Anyway, I mean, so you say, yeah, God can't do that. Well, God can do anything he wants. He's Swarad, he's independent. So he appears as Govardhan Hill. So Krishna says, worship the hill, because we're dependent on the hill. The hill has the grass. All the sacrifices are done on the hill, and fruits and everything like that. So they worship Govardhan Hill. And Govardhan Hill, by Krishna's arrangement, assumes this gigantic form after he eats everything that they offered him and says, I want more. And that's pretty scary when you have this gigantic form of Krishna who's still hungry, but he's not a cannibal. Don't worry about that. That's the universal form. The universal form eats everything. The Krishna showed in the Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter, isn't it? Everybody was rushing into the mouths of the universal form. So everybody goes, oh my God, there's nothing left to offer him. What is he going to eat now? And so eventually they gave him a little tulsi leaf. And he says, I'm satisfied. Because by getting a tulsi leaf, Krishna is satisfied. A leaf of fruit, a little water, patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. So really interesting. So anyway, so they finish the worship, they circumambulate Govardhan Hill, everybody's happy, and then Indra is really angry. He says, that's it, you're all finished. And he calls for the, cyclones and hurricanes and tornadoes, you name it. Clouds called the Samvartaka cloud that really are meant to destroy everything. And there's a vast inundation. I mean, it's worse than what happened in New Orleans during Katrina. I mean, there was so much water. It was like the heavens literally opened up, and lightning and everything like that. And the residents of Vrindavan are really upset with this whole thing. What are we going to do? They look to Krishna. Krishna says, don't worry. Walks under the hill with the pinky of his left hand. He lifts this gigantic hill, mountain. And he says, get under. And so for 7 days they're under, and so many things happened while they were under the hill. Indra eventually realized, also the top of the hill didn't get inundated because Krishna had his chakra hovering on the top of the hill. So everybody was all right. Everybody was having a good time under the hill. Party, 7-day party. And the hill didn't get inundated. And Balaram arranged to collect all the water in this kund called the Sankarshan kund. So really nothing too bad happened. So Indra's kind of frustrated. He said, I did everything I could. Now I think I've made a big mistake. But because he's made a big mistake against Krishna and he sees how powerful Krishna is, he gets really worried because, you offend a very powerful person. You want to apologize to them, and not only apologize, you want to pacify them. So he has this interesting way of pacifying Krishna because Krishna loves what animal? The cow. That's Krishna's favorite animal. So he brings this Surabhi cow from the heavenly planets with him, and he brings Airavata, his elephant, and he puts her forth first. And Krishna, when he sees, he becomes pacified. It reminds me of the story when Lakshman was very angry with Sugriva because Sugriva wasn't really carrying forth his promise. So Lakshman goes into the palace, really, really angry. And everyone's drunk inside there. And so Tara has to come out to pacify him. Lady. Anyway, don't want to get too much into the Ramayana right now, because I love the Ramayana. So anyway, Krishna becomes pacified. Indra apologizes. Indra bathes Krishna. First of all, Surabhi bathes Krishna with this transcendental milk, like we're going to do an Abhishek here for Govardhan. And then Indra bathes Krishna with the celestial Ganges water, and he gives Krishna the name Govinda at this particular point. And so he recites a whole bunch of really amazing prayers to Krishna at this particular juncture and apologizes to Krishna and all the demigods. They realize their position in relationship to Krishna. And then the moral of the story is one just has to worship Krishna. If one worships Krishna, then all the demigods are pleased. Everybody else is pleased. So that's a very important, that's the story. So now we're going to talk about, and so Govardhan, let's talk about Govardhan's glories, some of Govardhan's glories at this particular point. I told you I'd go fast. And so Govardhan, because Govardhan is non-different from Krishna, and because Krishna's intimate pastimes, so many of intimate pastimes occurred in this place, particularly around what's called the head of Govardhan. Govardhan is shaped like a peacock. Those of you who saw my class last night on the internet, I described and I took everybody around Govardhan showing all the different places. And the reason I know so much about Govardhan is by Prabhupada's mercy. And because I've stayed there, I have a place and I stay there for many months, sometimes pre-COVID. And we take groups around. Anyone who's interested in going around a tour of Govardhan, please sign up later with Aditya Narayan. So anyway, Govardhan is shaped like a peacock. And the head of the peacock has two eyes. And those two eyes are what? Radhakund and Shaimakund. The two holiest places anywhere. Anywhere. So Govardhan, and which includes Radhakund and Shaimakund, and all the other pilgrimage places around, like the Manasi Ganga, which was created from Krishna's mind, and all the wonderful things at Govardhan. They constitute the holiest of all the holy places. There is no holy place as holy as Govardhan. And we're going to tell the story that illustrates this right now. Actually, I have so many things, so many notes here. I have prayers, everything like that. This story illustrates in a very interesting story. It's about a monster. And it's about a Brahmin. So once upon a time, there was a Brahmin who really wanted to do some pinda. Pinda means you take care of your ancestors. That's really important in the Vedic culture. That's why a son is called a putra, a daughter is called a putri, one who saves their ancestors from Hell. right? So he goes to a holy place. He goes to Mathura, and then he goes to Govardhan. And while he's in Govardhan, he just thinks, let me take one of these stones, the Shilas. Just like we have a Govardhan Shila on the altar. But don't do with that Shila the same thing as this Brahmana does in this story, because it's not a good idea. But anyway, so he goes from forest to forest and finally leaves Vrindavan. And when he leaves Vrindavan, he comes upon this hideous monster. Actually, Rakshasa. Rakshasa means eating human beings. This monster had 3 heads, 3 chests. Oh my God. 6 arms, 6 legs, 3 hands, huge lips. Of course, you can't see my lips. And a huge nose. And it's described his tongue was as long as 7 hands. What, 7 hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like a lizard. You've seen lizards before. And he was just ready to eat this Brahmin. So he opened his mouth, getting ready to eat the Brahmin. The Brahmin had nothing, no weapons or anything, or no way to defend himself. He didn't know jujitsu. He just was defenseless. All he had in his hands was this Govardhan Shila, the stone from Govardhan Hill. So he threw the stone. As I said, don't do that. But that's all he had at this particular point. He threw the stone at this monster. And the monster all of a sudden manifested himself as a young man, a very attractive young man with long, nice hair and everything like that, and as a liberated soul. And he said, wow, what happened? And this person explained how sinful he was before. Anyway, there's a whole explanation here. He said, in a previous birth, I was born in a wealthy family on Long Island. No, not in India. I was a gambler. I was chasing prostitutes. I killed my parents. I killed my wife with a sword. I went to the south and became a thief. I became upset with a prostitute. I threw her into a well. I killed hundreds and thousands of Kshatriyas, Brahmins, Vaishyas, and Shudras. And one day I stepped on a snake, and I died. And when that happened, these nice people, the Yamadutas, came, and they tied me up, dragged me to HELL. And I went to Kumbhakapaka from Manvantara. Anyway, there's so many stories here. He became, for 10 births, I was a pig. 100 births, I was a tiger. 100 births, I was a camel. Oh my God. For another 100 births, I was a buffalo. For 1,000 births, I was a snake. And after 10,000 years of these, I was born in the desert as a monster. And then you hit me with this Govardhan Shila. And then, shortly after that, well, there's something happened in the meantime. A chariot came down that was as brilliant as 1,000 suns and took him back to the spiritual world. Wow. So, what's explained here about Govardhan is really interesting. And I'm going to hear some of the benedictions one gets from worshiping Govardhan. It says, simply by seeing Govardhan Hill, a person attains the supreme goal of life. He said, the same result one attains by performing austerities for 5,000 years on a sacred mountain is attained in a single moment on Govardhan Hill. The same result of giving millions and millions, doing millions and millions of fire sacrifice, Ashvamedas, is attained simply by seeing Govardhan Hill. No other holy place is as sacred as Govardhan Hill. By going on pilgrimage to Govardhan Hill, one attains the piety 10 million times greater than the piety he would attain by going on pilgrimage to Rishimukh or Devagiri. There will never be a holy place equal to Govardhan Hill. And that goes on giving a lot of glorification of Govardhan. So that's the position of Govardhan. And so finally, wow, we got a lot of people here. I'd like to read a very beautiful poem that was written, actually I have 2 ashtakas, or that means 8 stanza poems, written by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, the Prayojana Acharya in glorification of Govardhan. Because Govardhan is the holiest place. If you reside there, you have no need to go to any other holy place. You've already done Char Dham Yatra just by being at Govardhan. You've already gone to Ayodhya. You've already gone to, think of any holy place. Kashi. You've already gone to Puri. You've already gone everywhere just by residing at Govardhan. And if you spend time in Braj and Vrindavan, you'll see that there's replicas of all the holy places within the Braj area. There's a Kedarnath. There's a Badrinath. Those of you from India will recognize the words I'm using right now. All these places, there's a Lakshman Julan. Everything is within the Braj area. And so I invite you all to go on Braj Mando Parikrama with me. So, anyway, someday in the future. So I want to read this Govardhan Ashtakam, Dashakam, actually, written by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And I'll stop from time to time and explain certain things that he's saying. And I'm just going to read it in English. O Govardhan, you became the umbrella which was held by the arm of your own Lord Krishna. In this way, Sri Krishna diminished Indra, the king of demigods, who was intoxicated by great pride. You are the incomparable king of all the big mountains. Please allow me to live close to you. So the devotees pray, please let me have your shelter. Let me allow me to live close to you. And of course, we have other responsibilities, but in our minds and our hearts, to live close to Govardhan means to actually emotionally, mentally be close. Physically is not the point. Sometimes people hear the stories about, or the injunctions, that if you live at Radhakund, that so many things will happen. But living at Radhakund means to actually have the right consciousness to serve Govardhan. Just like our spiritual masters, Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada left Braj to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. But wherever he went was Braj. Of course, we have a devotee here named Braj too, but anyway, it's not the same. The second verse is, O Govardhan, the young divine couple, Shri Shri Radhakrishna play splendid, wild, loving games in your every cave. So I became very eager to see them here. Please allow me to live close by you. So the pastimes of Radha and Krishna continually is called aprakata. That means they're actually still taking place around Govardhan. And those who have purified consciousness can feel the presence of the divine couple of Radha and Krishna while they're there. And there's many caves, and when we go around Govardhan, there's one cave in particular I take the devotees to called the Mani Kundali Cave. And one of Lord Chaitanya's great devotees, Raghava Pandit, who was Dinishta in Krishna's pastimes, used to meditate in that cave. And when I was first going to Govardhan, I would go into that cave and actually chant japa in that cave and just shut the door so nobody could see me. But when I discovered bats, I didn't do that anymore. So, O Govardhan, in topmost joy, Krishna plays together with Balaram and the coward boys in your incomparable jeweled pavilions and thrones, in the hollows of your trees, in your caves, and in the valleys. Please allow me to live close to you. So one thing you'll see here in the poems of Raghunath Das Goswami, and something called lalyam. Lalyam means like an intense greed or hankering. So I was asked the question today, as I'm often asked, how do you chant Krishna's name And how do you remain focused when you're chanting Krishna's name? And the answer I gave is you have to have an intense desire or greed or request or sankalpa while you're chanting Krishna's name. Then you can be focused. If you're not thinking of what you want intensely, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param, you're not going to be able to be focused when you're chanting. So you find in each and every one of these stanzas, shlokas, you'll find that Raghunath Das Goswami is begging Krishna, please allow me to live close. Please give me the mercy of living close. So that's how we should chant Krishna's name. Oh, Govardhan, you're the witness of Radha and Krishna's tax game. I'll talk about that. In which Krishna charges tax from the ghee the gopis carry on their heads, which is an ocean of mellows. You increase the joy of the mellows of the devotees with your display of bluish platforms, which are full of splendor and fragrance. Please allow me to live close by you. Now, one of the main places at Govardhan is called Dangati. That's right in the center of Govardhan. Dangati means the path of taxes. So, basically, it's a path over Govardhan, where Govardhan is underground. And it's in the city of Govardhan, which is in the center of Govardhan, like the waist of the peacock. And what happens is that the gopis, this is an exchange between the gopis and Krishna that occurs in many instances. The gopis are carrying the milk products on their heads, because that's what they do in India. Prabhupada said, actually, when the ladies carry the milk products and things on their heads, they have good posture. Nowadays, when you use a computer, you develop horrible posture. But it's actually better to carry pots on your head than to use a computer. So anyway, so they were carrying these pots and buttermilk and yogurt and ghee on their heads for a sacrifice at another place called Govindakund. And Krishna and the coward boys decided to play some tricks on him. So he stopped them. He said, I'm the king of Vrindavan, which is true. But Radharani is the queen of Vrindavan. So he said, I'm the king of Vrindavan. You have to pay taxes. And they started to argue back and forth. We're not paying taxes. Then Krishna got really romantic. He said, Radharani, because romance actually starts in the spiritual plane. We wouldn't have it here if it wasn't there in the spiritual world. Everything here is a reflection of the spiritual world. You know, your Bollywood movies are a reflection of Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna says to Radharani, I'll charge you so many gold coins for your beautiful nose, and for your beautiful ears, and your beautiful eyes. Imagine that. That's romantic, isn't it? Any of you husbands ever said that to your wives? I don't think so. So the women would love it. So anyway, so she didn't like it very much, because he was charging. There was arguing back and forth. And finally, you know, Yogamaya had to come out, Purnamasi had to come out and say, we're going to solve this. Okay, I'm going to mediate between you. And they decided, all right, we'll come back tomorrow and pay the taxes. Okay, coward boys were happy, Krishna was happy. They came back the next day, and they overpowered Krishna and the coward boys, the girls did. And they tied Krishna and the coward boys to the trees and threatened them with sticks. And so many of these pastimes, these tax pastimes occurred around there. And, you know, boat festivals, tax pastimes, boat festivals in the Manasa Ganga. So when we talk about Krishna and his pastimes and his activities, they're not just stereotypical pastimes like you think, oh God, he should just remain where he is in the spiritual world and just mind his own business. And his business is just giving me what I want. But he has his own life. And Radharani, you know, Radha and Krishna, they have their own life, their own beautiful life of different exchanges where there's joking and teasing and anger. This is what makes life so interesting. So, anyway, so that's the tax pastimes. O Govardhan, we'll finish this soon. O Govardhan, you affectionately and secretly embrace the neck of your own dear friend Shri Radha Kund, the place which is very dear to you and Lord Hari. Please allow me to live close by you and show me the intimate pastimes of the divine young couple there. So, of course, Radha Kund was formed by Srimati Radharani. It's the most sacred place and is dear to Krishna as Radharani is. O Govardhan, you make your name keeper of cows, successfully, constantly giving land, water, grass, and the shade of trees to the cows, and thus you are famous in the three worlds. Please allow me to live close to you. O Govardhan, your glories are increased by the enemy of Agasura and Bakasura. That's Krishna, of course. Sri Krishna, when he protected the Brajavasis and vanquished Indra, which is the story we just told, by quickly using you as the new shelter from the rain, please allow me to live close by you. So this is how we should be praying. Please allow me to have your shelter. O Govardhan, king of the mountains, because the nectar of your name is Hari's best servant, emanated from Srimati Radharani's pearl-like mouth, which was revealed by Vedic scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam, you are called the new Tilak because of your long, bluish, thin shape at the edge of Braja. Please allow me to live close by you. So in other words, it was Radharani who named Govardhan as Haridas Varya. That means the best servant of Krishna. So Govardhan is the best servant of Krishna. It's Krishna too. So we're almost finished. 3 more. O Govardhan, you are the only giver of joy to Sri Radha Krishna and their associates that are always surrounded by the people, animals, and birds of Braja in the mood of friendship. Please mercifully accept me and allow me to live close by you. O Govardhan, although I am vile and deceitful, this is his humility, the causeless, merciful Sri Sachinandana submitted me to you. Therefore, do not consider whether I am qualified or unqualified and accept me. Allow me, please, to live close by you. Of course, Raghunath Das Goswami got a Govardhan Shila from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also Gunjamala too. So, anyone who carefully recites these 10 verses, praising the King of Mountains, Sri Govardhan, that is the giver of divine mellows, will swiftly attain a place to live close by Govardhan, the bestower of bliss, and he will attain the precious jewel of the auspicious loving service of the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. So, I think we'll end here because we have actually more programs. We have Govardhan Puja, actually the worship of Govardhan Hill, the bathing of Govardhan Hill right now, and also the circumambulation of the Prasadam Govardhan Hill, which will be in the hall. So, thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Aditya Narayan? Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So, thank you so much, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. And as Maharaj says, one day we can all go with Maharaj and do a wonderful Vrindavan Parikrama. Normally, people are already raising their hands. Maharaj, they are already raising their hands, so we can already start planning for next year. Hare Krishna. Yeah, by Maharaj's mercy, I'll be going to Vrindavan tomorrow. Yes. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Very, very wonderful. So our schedule now is we are going to have an Abhishek of Giriraj Govardhan. Like yesterday was the actual day of Govardhan Puja. So we'll have a wonderful Abhishek. As I mentioned, we are very fortunate that Giriraj Shila, the original Giriraj mountain, has actually mercifully appeared on our altar. So we'll have a wonderful Abhishek. And mainly we'll be asking Maharaj and maybe some Prabhupada disciples to offer Abhishek. And we all are a part of it by just witnessing the wonderful Abhishek, right? So we'll have an Abhishek of Giriraj Govardhan. So pujaris can start setting up, please. Yeah. And please be seated. Please be seated. So Maharaj, only I was thinking you and Drishta Prabhu can do the Abhishek. And then we'll, so after the Abhishek, we'll actually take Sri Giriraj Govardhan. We'll have a procession with Giriraj Govardhan and we'll go down. And then the rest of the programs will be downstairs, right? Okay, so Hare Krishna, please don't be disturbed. Please be seated. The few of the devotees will take care. You can still focus here. So please don't be disturbed. Okay. Right in the center. Okay, Hare Krishna. So just few minutes while Shri Giriraj Govardhan arrives. So just want to mention today on this auspicious day of Diwali Govardhan Puja, if you like to sponsor any aspect of the festival, today is a wonderful day, especially on Diwali Govardhan Puja, people give gifts to Krishna, you know. So if you like to sponsor any aspect of the festival, you could sponsor the Artik today for $108, the Abhishek for $108. You can sponsor the entire Giriraj Govardhan downstairs, the big hill of sweets, for $301. And you can also sponsor the entire Prasadam feast today for $301. So if anyone would like to sponsor any aspect of the festival, please do reach out. It's a very, very auspicious day to make a contribution for the service of Sri Sri Radha Golokananda and Giriraj Govardhan. Okay? Also, everyone, so we have a very, very wonderful project that's happening here at New Goloka, you know. So we are actually putting. Okay, so I'll just make one quick announcement. So we have a very, Prabhuji, up aage aayenge. Yeah. So we have a very, very wonderful project here at New Goloka. All around the temple, we are actually installing beautiful signs which have important Bhagavad Gita shlokas. You know, so when you walk down in the entrance, you'll see a very nice, beautiful sign of a Bhagavad Gita shlok, right? And this is actually very professionally made signs, right? And we are encouraging everyone, if you like to be a part of this project, you can actually sponsor one entire sign with a shloka of Bhagavad Gita. And you also have the option of selecting your favorite Bhagavad Gita shloka. Actually, Maharaja himself has already selected 5 his favorite shlokas, right? So you can always sponsor one that Maharaj has already selected, or you can sponsor one where you can put your own Bhagavad Gita shloka. And if you like to sponsor any of these signs, you know, we have different kinds of signs, but the range is between $500 to $1,000 for one sign. They are very professional signs, and we'll have them all around the temple. So if you like to sponsor any of these signs, please reach out to Mother Urmila is right here, right? So please reach out to her. She's coordinating this wonderful project. So next time you come, you know, in some time we'll have nice Bhagavad Gita. So people just walk in and they'll be reading shlokas from Bhagavad Gita. So without further ado, we'll have, so everyone please remain seated, right? So you can actually witness the beautiful Abhishek. And then after the Abhishek, we'll actually have a procession and go downstairs with nice kirtan. Hare Krishna.
Namayo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyan Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauram Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauram Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We got it, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. गिरिराज गोवर्धन महाराज बोलो जय, गिरिराज गोवर्धन राज बोलो जय जय, गिरिराज गोवर्धन महाराज की बोलो जय, गोवर्धन महाराज की बोलो जय, गिरिराज महाराज, गिरिराज महाराज, गिरिराज महाराज, जय गिरिराज महाराज. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. You want to sing? You want to sing?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram,